Hi guys, Mike here again. In this video, I'm going to try and evaluate and review Xiangling's elemental skill Gouba attack. I'm going to be using the same criteria that I used in my official Knight Rider review with some minor changes, but I'll explain those changes as we get into it. So let's get into the raw criteria right away. So the first criteria is burst. And just as a refresher, burst is just how quickly the skill appears and takes effect once you hit the skill trigger or the whatever button you're pressing to trigger the skill. So for Gouba, I have to give it 2-star rating because once you hit the trigger, Gouba pops out and he doesn't immediately start breathing fire. He has to take a bite of that chili pepper first, and then he'll start breathing fire. And I've noticed it's quite substantial in how long it takes for the fire to appear. Every time I place Gouba on the ground, I tend to miss because the burst is so crappy. I'll place him in a place that I think is a good spot, and the enemy will have moved to a different location by the time he actually fires off or starts breathing fire. So for that, I have to give him 2 stars. All right, moving on. So AoE. AoE just stands for area of effect. Most of you already knew that. For Gouba, I was debating whether to give this 2 stars or 3 stars, and I'm going to have to give it 2 stars because when he starts breathing fire, he kind of breathes in a triangular formation. And it's not that good. I've really tried to convince myself maybe it is 3 stars, and after much deliberation, I have to give it a 2-star rating. It's just not that good. I wish it was a little bigger, and another reason I kind of give the AOE 2 stars is, it's supposed to be an AOE move because it's fire breathing in an area of effect, but it just doesn't. It's just so hard to hit enemies, and for a 3-star ranking would be considered average, and just because the AOE disappoints me so often, I have to give it 2 stars, so below average. All right, moving on to lingering. Lingering, you can think of it's just the amount of time that the skill is on the field, and lingering is important to kind of establish because the derived criteria below rely on lingering for things like energy generation and elemental triggering and stuff. But so lingering is just simply how long is Gouba on the field, and the answer to that is 7 seconds. All right, so so the rating I gave it was 3 stars, and it's not above average, but it's not below average. I don't think it deserves a 2-star rating, so I'm just going to give it 3 stars for now. But it's not so great that I have to give it more than 3 stars. So I feel pretty confident with a 3-star rating for that. All right, so moving on, number of hit events. So in my previous official video, I called this number of hits, and that's a little misleading in what I wanted to communicate because, if you have an AoE attack and like Gouba, and he breathes fire and he hits multiple enemies with one flame blast, then that's not exactly what I'm looking for, because if there's 5 enemies and he hits all 5 enemies with one flame blast, that's 5 hits, right? So what I'm kind of changing this criteria to is number of hit events. So you can think of it as events in time where a hit can take place. So for like Fischl and her Knight Rider skill with Oz, she can hit 1 AoE and 10 single target hits and those 10 hits are Oz's bullets that can only hit 1 unit, and that would count as 11 hit events. But Gouba, like if there's 5 enemies on the field and all 5 enemies are hit by the 4 AoE blasts that come out of Gouba, that's not 20 hits. That's not 4 times 5 is 20 hits. It's still 4 hit events because you have 4 waves of AoE blasts. So that's how I want to really that's how I want to define this criteria, number of hit events. So for Gouba, it's 4 AoE blasts. All right. Next one is cooldown. Now, oh, okay, wait. Going back a second. So hit events, I give it 2 stars because it's just 4 AoE blasts. It's really underwhelming. I think there are other skills out there that are probably better, but just in my experience of using it, it's pretty underwhelming. So I have to give it 2 stars. It's not complete crap because you're getting multiple hits. At least you get 4 AoE blasts. So I feel pretty confident with that 2-star rating. So the next criteria is cooldown. Now, this is what I really like about Gouba and why I actually really like Xiangling on the team is because Gouba's cooldown is only 12 seconds. And if you think about the time when Gouba's not on the field, it's effectively only 5 seconds because he once you hit the trigger, Gouba appears, the cooldown of 12 seconds starts. And Gouba's on the field for 7 seconds, breathing his 4 AoE blasts. And then at that 5-second timer mark on the cooldown, that's when he disappears. So you effectively only have 5 seconds at any time where Gouba's not on the field. So you can always keep Gouba on the field and he's always breathing fire. So that, I think, is what really saves this skill from being total trash. And I think every party needs or can benefit from a character that has a very low cooldown, even though their other criteria is kind of crappy, because it gives you a lot of flexibility to always be dealing damage or setting up elemental triggers and stuff like that. Contrasted to other skills that have really high cooldowns and you're always waiting around and you never have an opportunity to use these skills, or you never have the flexibility to use them at the times that you really want to use them or in the emergency situations. So for this 12-second cooldown for Gouba, I have to give her 5 stars. And also too, when I'm playing, just in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking I can always rely on Gouba to, most of the time, always be ready to be that skill to ready be used. Okay, so the next one is hit damage. Hit damage is, for Gouba, is nothing particularly special. So I can't give it 4 stars or 5 stars. And yes, granted, if you get the talent level ups, the damage will be improved. But I kind of don't want to include talent level ups because it's, any skill can become pretty strong if you pump enough talent level ups into that skill. So I'm just trying to kind of give it normalized to, ignoring talent level ups and even constellations. For the vast majority of players, especially free-to-play players, you're not going to be getting the constellations, although Gouba has a pretty nice constellation where he drops a chili pepper after he's done breathing, and you can pick that chili pepper up and it gives you a 10% attack boost. So, but going back to hit damage, it's not bad and it's not good. So I would give it 3 stars. I can kind of see some people giving it 2 stars. I was actually even tempted to give it 2 stars, but I feel all right with giving it 3 stars. It against certain enemies too, it's pretty useful. It's fire DPS, so it's fire damage. So 3 stars is all right. Utility. Honestly, I don't think Gouba has any utility. I mean, you can argue that he can solve puzzles, and I've tried it because I don't like to keep Amber in my party for solving puzzles, and he's not that good for solving puzzles. Honestly, he's more of a last resort to solve puzzles, but I'm just too lazy to switch Amber to swap Amber into the party, so I just use Gouba and I make do with it. But utility, he really has no utility, so we're just gonna leave that blank. All right, so moving on to derived criteria. So derived criteria, just as a refresher, is taking the raw criteria up here and it's kind of combining them to say that these raw criteria can contribute to this derived criteria. For example, hit rate is a combination of burst, AoE, and utility, and these are not, these aren't, perfectly balanced, like 33% burst, 33% AoE, 33% utilities. Burst or AoE may have more contribution to the hit rate and accuracy than utility, but some other skills, the opposite may be true. Like utility may contribute more to the hit rate and accuracy just because of how the skill functions and the utility that it provides. So these are just kind of guides as to what may give a good or bad ranking to this derived criteria here. All right, so the first derived criteria is hit rate and accuracy. And I'm pretty confident with this rating of 2 stars, which kind of means below average. It's, Gouba combined with his poor AoE and that poor burst, I have to give it 2 stars. And I can see someone giving it 1 stars because I don't know, honestly, his hit rate is pretty disappointing because you throw him out onto the field hoping that he hits something, and just whatever factor it may be, like Gouba, sometimes he'll try to auto aim for an enemy and it's not the enemy you want, and that AoE blast kind of hits one enemy, but you wish he kind of hit all of the enemies. And then the fast enemies, they can easily run circles around Gouba and avoid the attack altogether. And then combining that with the low AoE area effect that Gouba provides, I have to give it 2 stars. No, I can't in good faith give him 3 stars or higher. So I'm gonna give him 2 stars. 2 stars. His only redeeming factor is if you get used to the skill and how Gouba works. Then I can feel confident giving him 2 stars. But I can honestly see hit rate going down to 1 stars, especially for people who are not too experienced with using him. All right, the next one is energy generation. And this I definitely have to give 1 star because I've tested it. I was thinking, okay, well, Gouba is an AoE, an AoE skill. And if he hits more than one enemy, I should be able to generate more particles and more energy, and more orbs and more energy than other single target skills, for example, and that is not the case. I've tested it multiple times. I would get Gouba to hit multiple enemies, and only 1 energy orb, particle, whatever you want to call it, would be generated from each hit, even if he hit more than 1 unit. So, and then combining that fact with his crappy, the fact that he has 4 hit events, so you only have at max 4 times that you can get energy, and the fact that the hit rate and accuracy is so low, so you might not even be getting any energy simply because your Gouba missed his attack. So for all of these factors combined, I have to give energy generation a 1-star rating. All right, next is damage output and DPS. Again, I'm going to have to give him below average because his burst and the fact that he only has 4 hits and they're so slow to between hits. And yeah, all of those factors, I would have to give him 2 stars. His only redeeming factor from preventing him from going down to 1 star is the fact that his cooldown is so fantastic. That because just keeping Gouba on the field at all times can rack up some damage, but balancing that pro out with the cons of just his hit rate, his AoE, and all those other crappy facets of Gouba, I can't confidently give him 3 stars. So I feel pretty confident with the 2-star rating here. The last one is elemental reaction triggering, and I was thinking, because Gouba has somewhat lackluster damage, I was thinking, well, he should be, maybe his redeeming benefit is his elemental reaction triggering potential. And after using him quite a bit, he's pretty reliable in getting the overload reaction and all of the other elemental reactions. But I cannot in good faith give him an above average of 4 stars because just because his AoE is kind of crappy and his burst is kind of crappy. The burst is really important for getting elemental reaction triggering, because if you're trying to get a elemental reaction, you want you want to get it reliably, right? And burst just really helps that, because it's a very fragile situation, precarious situation, when you have one elemental debuff on the enemy and you really, okay, I need to it's very urgent that I get this elemental reaction on, and burst just really makes that elemental reaction triggering reliable. So, but because Gouba doesn't have it and he has that crappy hit rate and his AoE is, like I said, underwhelming, it's really hard. But the reason I don't give it 2 stars is because the AoE is okay. It can give. It's just in my experience. He he's just he's just okay. The problem with Gouba is he's just so random, and I really like consistency, but because when I'm trying to go for an elemental reaction triggering, even though he's crappy in other areas, he still somehow manages to get the job done. And just for that, just based on my experience, he gets a 3-star rating and not a 2-star rating. But I can definitely see someone knocking him down to 2 stars for elemental reaction triggering, just because they get so frustrated in trying to get Gouba to hit. I find Gouba, if you're trying to get elemental reaction triggering, you should definitely try to get the flame on the enemy first and not try to rely on him for that second elemental reaction, just because he's so varied in his reliability that at least because the timing is so awkward, right? It's really urgent you get that second elemental trigger. But if you at least get him with the first, then okay, then now you can kind of relax and then use something, a different elemental reaction skill that is more reliable, like Knight Rider, for example. So overall, I'm gonna have to give Gouba 2 stars, and I can see someone giving him 3 stars, which is average, but I'm going to have to give him 2 stars. I was really tempted to give him 3 stars, but I feel 2 stars is more fair, because just like looking at the criteria above here, he's just really, when I really think about it and try to be fair about it, he's really underwhelming. And there have been times where he's really useful. I mean, not really useful, but he's able to deliver on results. But it's just the fact that he's pretty inconsistent, and it's really hard to be consistent with him. I can't in good faith give him like a 4 stars or higher. And I was, he's like begging to be 3 stars, but I just cannot give him a 3 stars as that average skill. But he can work. I can see someone giving him 3 stars if you get really good with placing him down and getting your tactics right, and placing him and being able to hit enemies very often, and like also knowing when to place him. Like, for example, you don't want to place him down before the large hilly churl with the shield does his charge, right? You want to place him after that enemy does the charge, because if you place Gouba before, then that enemy is just going to dash right by him, and he's just never going to be hit by that. So using a little bit of game sense I think can improve him to 3 stars, but for now I'm going to have to give him 2 stars. So that's pretty much it for Gouba. Is there anything else I want to say about him? No, like I said, I wanted to give him 3 stars, but I just can't. I have to give him 2 stars. Feel free to check out my official Knight Rider skill review. It's kind of in this same format. I'll probably be doing more skills like this. For the future, I'm probably gonna do Vayne T. I really want to do Xing Chu, that water boy with the Hydra sword. He seems interesting. I've used him very little, but just I think he would make an interesting video based on this criteria, in my opinion. But I have to use him a little bit more. Definitely want to do Chi Chi. I have Sucrose. I have Bennett. I have never tried Bennett that much. I kind of, long story short, I want to get all the characters, but I really have to use them more often in order for me. I really want to give them fair ratings using this system. So, oh yeah, another thing too. I don't want to. So my ratings for these skills are compared to other skills of this class. So these starred ratings are compared to other elemental skills, not the burst skills. I think in my previous video I said, "Oh, I wanted to do the burst skills as well," and I still do want to do the burst skills, but I feel it's not fair to compare the elemental skills to the burst skills because the mechanics of them are so different. Like the mechanics of generating energy to get them, as well as obviously the burst skills are just going to dominate and beat out all the elemental skills. So it makes no sense to compare and rate the elemental skills and the burst skills in one rating system. So you can just think of this rating system is just for elemental skills, and I'll probably use the same rating system for the burst skills, but just note that those burst skills will be normalized against each other. So what may be a 3-star burst skill overall rating for a burst skill is still probably going to be better than a 5-star elemental skill, just because burst skills are naturally better. So, yep, that's pretty much it. Subscribe for more videos like this. Yeah, if there's a skill you really want me to review, then I definitely love to review it. Like I said, I'm gonna review all of them eventually. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it, and I'll see you guys later.